Story 1. Everything started several years ago, around 2013 to 2014 in Mexico. My entitled aunt has a history of harassing my grandma, her mom, with money loans, stealing her food, and even making grandma pay for her utility bills. My aunt would harass my grandma, saying it was her responsibility to make her daughter happy or that she was in need, asking, wouldn't her mother help her? This pressure led my grandma to ask the bank for a loan. No one knew anything. My 65-year-old grandma had to start working, selling anything she could to pay the loan. In Mexico, there are some products by catalog called Avon, Stanholm, and Andrea shoes that you can offer and sell. Grandma started selling them to the point that she got sick due to stress. Her excuse to my mom was that she did it to make her feel young. Grandma being a farmer all her life, we could understand she couldn't be sitting all day doing nothing, since mom pays for her rent, food, and utility bills. My mom let her be, but always warned her not to overpressure herself. Time passed, and it was now 2016. She started accumulating late fees for not paying the loan on time. One day, my mom received a call from my grandma's neighbor because grandma passed out due to stress. She rushed to her house to find it empty. We thought someone had stolen everything, but no, the loan fees were too high, and the payment was overdue for over a year. The bank had taken everything from her house to pay the loan. This is when we learned that the entitled aunt had harassed grandma into taking the loan. My mom was furious. She and my stepdad paid the loan and recovered grandma's belongings. It was around $7,000 us in debt with the bank that my mom and stepdad ended up paying. From there, my mom hired a nurse and had my two younger sisters go to grandma's house after school every day to take care of her. Mom worked in a different state and only came on weekends. This is why she asked my sisters to take care of grandma. They did not move due to my stepdad's job and grandma's situation. Both were in high school at the time and always had someone at home to prevent my aunt from coming to the house to steal goods or harass grandma. 2016 passed. I finished university in 2015 and started working. I was able to get hired by an American company, and I started working and saving some money. In 2018, Mom and I decided to purchase a house for Grandma. We did all the paperwork and bought a house for her. By the way, if you wonder why Grandma was paying rent and had no house, it's because my alcoholic grandpa lost their farm gambling. We knew that my entitled aunt would try to trick Grandma into giving her the house, so the house was in my name. Everything was great for the next few years. Then 2020 came, the worst year overall, and we feared the worst. The pandemic. The inevitable happened. Grandma passed away. We are glad to say she had a peaceful death. She died in her sleep, happy and well taken care of by my mom, sisters, and her nurse. We knew that my aunt would try to make her move, so I asked my sisters to take Grandma's personal belongings from the house to trick my aunt. They agreed, took out all the furniture, clothes, and anything from the house, even a small nail on the front door for hanging plants. They left the house empty. 3 to 4 weeks after this, my sisters saw a big sign that said, "For sale," with my aunt's phone number on it. I knew it was time to start the revenge. I asked my family to let her know that I had something in mind. 2 months after the sign, the house was sold, and my sisters saw people moving in. I felt bad for these people, but I had something in mind for them as well. 6 months passed after the new people moved into the house, and then it was time to act. You may wonder why I took 6 months to act. Well, my aunt has a history of wasting money. I waited for her to waste most of the money from the house that she illegally sold. Revenge time. This is for you, Grandma. Event 1. Before the pandemic, my wife and I had planned to visit my mom for her to meet her granddaughter, so we continued with the plan, taking our precautions traveling. We went to Mexico to visit my mom. Event 2. My stepdad was into politics his whole life. I asked him as a favor to search for the most professional lawyer he knew for this, and we got the best. I presented my case to him and gave him the original house documents. He said it was going to be an easy win. Event 3. As if I didn't know anything, I went to Grandma's house with my key copies and opened the house. This was part of the plan, even though there were already people living there. I was surprised to see people inside the house and asked why they were in my house. The gentleman in the house stated he had purchased the house. I showed the house documents, and he was shocked. He then mentioned that the paperwork was being completed and gave the phone number of the agent. I apologized for coming into the house and went to the real estate office. Event 4. Arriving at the real estate office, I asked for the agent in charge of Grandma's house being sold. When he looked at me, it was like he saw his last hope. My assumption was that he thought I was going to agree to the house being sold. Our conversation went something like this. Me, hi. Are you the agent selling the house at such and such address? Agent. Yes, nice to meet you. We were trying to get a hold of you. Me. What for? Agent. We had a small issue with the paperwork. We only need your signature, and the house will be sold. Me. This might be a mistake. I'm here to talk about the house being sold because I did not agree to sell anything. Saying this, it was like a cool bucket of water was poured on him. The glow in his eyes was gone. He knew he had messed up really bad. Agent, why this change of mind? We've been talking via phone, and you agreed to everything. You even mentioned coming as soon as you arrived in town. Me? Sorry to break it to you, man, but you have been scammed. I have never talked to you before. Then I suggested calling me from the phone number we had been talking to. He did, and someone answered. Surprise, surprise, it was not me. Then I just mentioned that I wanted my house back since I had never agreed to anything, or I would legally proceed to sue them, and walked away. From this point, I knew everything was going to go down for my aunt. 3 days passed, and I encountered her in a Walmart parking lot. I politely approached her to say hi, like I didn't know anything. But when saying goodbye, I asked why she sold my house. She started to get nervous and denied everything until I mentioned that we had a lawyer suing her. She then tried to defend herself, saying Grandma gave her the house and she had a paper with Grandma's signature. I just smiled and mentioned that Grandma didn't have the power to do that since the house was in my name. I told her she better get her head straight because a storm was coming her way. 1 week passed, and we did not hear anything from the agent, so I paid him another visit. It was hard to track him down. I tried for 2 weeks to contact him with no luck, so we proceeded to sue them. As soon as the suit was placed, I received a call from the agent to meet him. I refused and hung up. I did this to make everything harder on him by avoiding me for 2 weeks. He then found out who my stepdad was and found my stepdad's office address. He had the audacity to visit my stepdad. My stepdad, being a busy man, ignored him and said to contact me, and that he should have listened the first time. After 3 days of constant calls, my wife, being sick of the calls, made me answer, and I agreed to meet. In the meeting, he gave me his version of the story and why the house was sold. He mentioned that my aunt contacted them to sell a house, stating it was her mom's house and she had inherited it. She then presented a paper with my grandma's signature with a fake last will stating the house belonged to my grandma and that my aunt was the new owner after Grandma passed away. This was nonsense, of course. When the agent started the paperwork, he found out the house was in my name. He contacted my aunt, and she assured him I agreed and gave him a fake phone number. This could be my aunt's boyfriend or someone on her side. I am still unsure who it was. The agent was in contact with this fake me for a long time, waiting for the paperwork, and mentioned that I was going to visit him to sign the paperwork. This is why he was so happy when I arrived the first time. The agent begged me to stop any legal action since he could go to jail. I agreed if he agreed to the following terms. A, recover my house and make the people inside my house move out. B, get a new house for the people currently in my house with the money they have already spent. He agreed to term A but was unsure about term B. I then stated that it was his fault for approving the paperwork without my signature, and that he would need to recover the money from the agent to pay. For the new home for the people currently in my house, they needed to solve this. I gave him 2 weeks to solve this, or else I would sue them all. Event 5. Notify my aunt about the fraud she had committed and that she better have the money to return. She did not take it very well. As always, she acted like she was in the right, saying, Grandma gave me this, and no one can take it from me. We'll see. Karen, we'll see.
Event 6. I went to talk to the people in my house to give them a heads up about the issue and apologize for the misunderstanding since it was never their fault.
I explained that they would be moved soon to a new house and not to worry. The real estate agent would take care of everything. We got a call from the agent at the end of the second week after we talked. He mentioned that my house was empty and that the people in there were in a new home as well. I called the gentleman who was in my house, and he confirmed that they were in a new house and everything was good with the real estate agent. Also, my house was empty. Now it's time to pay, which, since the agent and I were on good terms, we started working together to sue my aunt for fraud and identity theft. We went hard on her. We sent a letter to the court, notifying her of the date. She did not arrive. We sent a second letter, and this time she did arrive. While in court, she never talked, at least not like an adult would. She was crying and sobbing all the time, saying we tricked her, that the house was hers. But all this was hard to understand with her desperate crying. We presented our evidence. We even brought the bank records showing how she harassed Grandma into getting a bank loan. We brought witnesses. We had the whole circus set and ready for a big show. Our lawyer was smooth talking and presenting everything, stating the house was in my name and that my aunt had a history of tricking Grandma. In the end, we won the case. My aunt had no evidence other than the fake last will from Grandma, which was written by my aunt and only had Grandma's signature. Not only that, no lawyer was informed of this to back her up. The sentence: my aunt was to give back all the money she got from the house, around $20,000 ust. It was half of the house price since the paperwork was not completed. She had 2 weeks for this, and then 9 years in prison for fraud and identity theft.
Oh my goodness.
I was so happy about this. When the judge gave the sentence, my aunt was speechless. She couldn't even say a word. She even stopped crying. Her world and life had just collapsed in front of her eyes. Since then, I have not spoken with my aunt or anyone about this, except my mom, sisters, and stepdad. This was in November 2020. I don't know if my aunt was able to pay everything back, but I do know that when the police went to her house to arrest her, she tried to escape and was on the run for 2 days until she was caught riding a bus to Veracruz, attempting to escape. Edit. Here is a quick update on how the other members of the family took this event. Grandma had 5 children, 2 uncles, 2 aunts, and my mom. When Grandma passed out the first time due to the bank loan, the 2 uncles confronted my aunt in a big fight. From then on, they cut any communication with my aunt and, of course, agreed with her fate. The other aunt, although really disappointed, continued talking to my aunt like a good sister, but did not interfere with the revenge in any way, nor did she agree. We can say she was neutral. My mom, like the 2 uncles, agreed with the plan. Story 2. So, this happened while I, a 17-year-old German, was in France with a couple of students from my French class. We were browsing an Intermarché French supermarket chain at that moment. I was browsing an aisle with a classmate when a middle-aged couple asked me to exchange dollars into euros. Mind you, the Intermarché staff wears vests with the shop's name embroidered on it, and I obviously did not wear that vest. Woman, in English, excuse me, can you exchange this? Waving a dollar bill in my face. Me, sorry, I can't help you there. You'll have to find a bank in the town. Man, you speak English. You have to know. Just do it, please. Classmate, we're tourists, just like you. Please leave us alone. An employee came over to help us. Employee, in French, what's going on? Me? They think I'm staff and want me to exchange their money, but I'm obviously not able to do that. Employee, in heavily accented English, they're not staff. You harass customers. You leave. Compress. They left us alone after that, and we waited until they were gone. We had a good laugh from that incident, though.